What if I told you we already know what the final shape is? That's right. After searching for the veil, chasing after the witness, all of this time it was right in front of us. The final shape is our partner Geologie. Wait, because how could the final shape be the industry-leading skin and hair care brand? Just ask yourself, why else would the witness want it so badly? Have you seen his silky smooth skin? There's a reason why Geologie has 31 awards and 7,000 5-star customer reviews. And that's because Geologie uses powerful, proven ingredients that have been trusted by dermatologists for decades. And guys, it's so easy to get started with Geologie. Take a 30-second quiz and you'll get a skincare routine customized just for you. We've been with Geologie for over a year. And this month, you can get started with Geologie by using code Aztecross70 for 70% off your personalized skincare trial set with an additional 50% off on all add-ons. And for my folks on Amazon, you can pick up Geologie right there. If you prefer to shop through Prime and using our link down below, you can get 15% off on all Geologie products at checkout through Amazon. All right, hunters. Today we're going to be looking at your exotics. Now, we've pretty much been hitting every exotic we got to play through, but keep in mind, this is from a capture event on a preview build, meaning we're definitely going to be looking at these with the launch of the final shape to not only fully flesh out the capabilities of these exotics, but also just to see what changed from this build to the final shape build. With that being said though, today we're going to be looking at the exotic chest piece Gifted Conviction, as well as these exotic boots Balance of Power, both of which have some pretty unique and also very niche effects. But let's start with Gifted Conviction. We saw a little bit of this exotic already when it was teased a few weeks ago, but obviously we know a lot more as we actually got to play with it. Its perk is called the Gift of Certainty, and it reads, activating Ascension or Tempest Strike throws bouncing explosives at nearby targets that jolts and damages them. Jolting nearby targets grants you damage resistance. Now, for those wondering what the hell is Ascension, this is actually a new aspect in the final shape. Essentially, it's the ability to twirl your staff above your head, but it states right here, while airborne, consume your class ability energy to summon your arc staff, propelling yourself upward and creating a burst of energy that amplifies and jolts targets, which is exactly what you're seeing on your screen now. It's a super simple way to get easily amplified and apply jolts in a pretty big radius, like way bigger than I expected. But now let's see how Gifted Conviction can make this ability even better. First, if you notice those bouncing explosives, it kind of looks similar to like what the Scorn may use or even the Fallen may use, just in the way its physics works. But when activating either Tempest Strike or Ascension, 3 of these explosives will spawn in front of your character in this fan formation. Now, they'll either hit something and detonate, or they'll bounce once and then detonate on their own. Now, damage-wise, you can see here its explosion deals about 9,015 damage to this thrall. Now, to be honest, guys, it's not a whole lot of damage in the grand scheme of things, but we're really not relying on these explosives to net us kills. What we mainly want from this is the jolt damage. Here on this group of enemies, we use Ascension jolting and actually killing all the Shanks and Captains immediately. But our AoE was just short of this drag, and this is where Gifted Conviction comes in. We can see this drag gets a little closer, being affected by the outer fringe of the bouncing explosives, and even though it barely did any damage, it still applies jolt. So you can use this exotic to spread more jolt as you use your abilities. And for the example of Ascension, you already jolt most of the targets that the balls will hit, so when they do, they instead activate this chain lightning damage. But the part of this exotic that I think will be best is actually the last sentence. It says jolting nearby targets grants you damage resistance. Now, this damage resistance is the general resist buff that's found on current exotics like the Stag and even Omnioculus. Gifted Conviction here gives me resist ×2, and this lasts for 10 seconds on any application of jolt. It does not have to be from the explosives. But here's the beautiful thing. You can actually get more stacks of resist if you continue to jolt more targets. However, it seems that you can only increase your resist stacks once per jolt source, as using Ascension on this group of 4 adds only gives resist ×2. But if we play it back, Ascension immediately jolts and then gives us resist ×2. But if you watch, this orb applied jolt to this drag after Ascension, so it being a different source, we then see our buff go up to resist ×3. This also refreshes the timer, and this resist will cap out at resist ×4, as you can see here, which if it's the same as our current sandbox, the numbers here are really nice. We're talking 25% damage resistance at ×2, 40% at ×3, and a whopping 50% at ×4. And since the timer is refreshed as you jolt more targets, I could totally imagine this exotic being the go-to for my combination blow arc hunters, especially since means you could pair it with things like Spark of Resistance in our Arc subclass, or even Facet of Protection in our Prismatic subclass. This, of course, will double dip into damage resistance. Now, the other thing that I did not get to test was how does this apply to weapons that have Volt Shot that you're applying Jolt with? It's a very good question. I should have thought of this while we were doing this testing. I would assume it also applies here. So on demand, as long as you have a way of jolting targets, you can give yourself resist, which is huge for survivability. Now, in terms of other things that are going to synergize, we've got some pretty good things within our Prismatic kit. For instance, if you're using Ascension for more jolt sources, you can make use of Facet of Hope, which reads, while you have an elemental buff, your class ability regenerates more quickly, thus, of course, giving you more Ascension procs to take advantage of. A very simple loop here. This will make us amplify, which procs Facet of Hope, thus giving us back our dodge faster. So even though this exotic may not be that impressive in terms of its damage capabilities, really it's the survivability that so many people are going to lean on this exotic for. Now this takes us to our second exotic, Balance of Power. It comes with the main perk Double Down. This reads, your Threaded Spectre has increased duration and durability, and damaging it releases additional threadlings. While near your Threaded Spectre, you do not appear on radar. So first, let's just look at our beefed up Spectre. Now you probably already noticed this immediately. Our Spectre now has threadlings perched and orbiting, just like you would see on Strand Warlocks. Now there's only 2, but that means whenever a Spectre is destroyed, it will now send out 4 threadlings instead of the standard 2. And these 4 will spawn whether or not it's destroyed by an enemy. But something that's super unique that I barely noticed outside of this one clip is that the 2 orbiting threadlings will actually unperch and attack things that damage it. And you can see right here as one of those threadlings detaches way before the Spectre explodes into the other 3. Now the next thing that happens with this exotic is how we're actually taken off the radar when simply being near our Spectre. Now honestly, I felt like every time we dropped a Spectre anyways, all enemies focused on it, but this just takes it to that next level. Now you can see that this buff is active by looking at our character buffs, where you'll see the buff called Hidden. Now I'm not sure what the range of this hidden buff is. We also don't really know what it means to be truly off radar. For instance, normal invisibility will ping you when you double jump and when you sprint. So there's a chance that happens here too. But it's likely that this exotic is going to be a pretty good play inside of PvP just for baiting enemies. Now I may actually go the round of like Manicore. Manicore had a rework here recently where when you take to the air and you suspend yourselves, you actually confuse your enemies inside of PvE to where they're going to shoot where you were. So like if you just move out of the way, they'll kind of just shoot all around or in the general direction that they saw you last. So this could be part of that too, at least on the PvE front. Now, how can we leverage this with our Strand and Prismatic subclasses? The first thing to note is that like our base Threaded Spectre, there honestly isn't much true synergy within the subclass. Threadlings spawned from the Spectre don't debuff with Unravel or Sever, they simply just act as damage. That's not to say it doesn't have a place within PvE. Hell, we've used clones all the time inside of PvE. Many of our Strand builds have relied on Threaded Spectre, considering they keep aggro off of us, which is incredible. Now it's going to keep aggro off and spawn extra threadlings and essentially give us effective invisibility with that hidden buff. I'm seeing the potential here. At the same time, when it comes to creating clones, people love using 6 Coyote just for double clones, or even using things like Foe Tracer to amp our damage. Unfortunately, I didn't get to use this inside of PvP, as that's really going to be the place that I want to know how well this exotic works. How far can I get away from this clone and yet still remain off of radar? And yes, that can definitely mess with enemies. So I'm seeing the potential here. However, between both of these exotics, I think Get to Conviction just has a lot more to offer. That is, of course, if you want to rely on jolts. Either way, we'll be playing with both of these extensively with the launch of the Final Shape. If you haven't seen our breakdowns of our other Final Shape exotics, we have an entire playlist down below that you guys can check out. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.